a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel.
You're as cuddly as a cactus and as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch.
It's always sunny in Hollywood on a dark and stormy night, a mere few days before the reindeer take flight. My name is Lugia, your host to the bazaar. I am not alone, because with me are...
My name is Patrick. I am second in this room.
And I'm Drum Arts. And I love to goon. I couldn't think of a rhyme, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't. I knew I kind of walked you into a weird corner.
It's fine, we tried.
We did try, and that's what's important.
That's a funny line, oh well.
To quote the Grinch, we did our worst, and that's what matters.
Anyway,
Speaking of the Grinch, that is the subject of today.
Not the Grinch that you're probably familiar with, no, but we'll get to that in a little bit, but I believe we have some news that we want to cover before we get to the main course.
Gaming.
Yeah!
A new Kojima game is coming out with Jordan Peele. Looks weird. It's, from what I understand, it's probably going to be building off of the PT stuff. I'll be honest, I thought the Game Awards, none of the announcements of the Game Awards really interested me, outside of, stuff that I already knew existed.
Yeah, I didn't watch the Game Awards either, and I'm glad I didn't, because a lot of it did seem pretty disappointing, but I do wish I was here for this. Sega is bringing back old and seemingly dead IPs.
I'm very mixed on that, because here's the thing. When I saw that card, I was like, hell yeah, and then they started playing the trailers, and I'm like, what the fuck did they do to Crazy Taxi, man? That's my favorite one on the list of games, Crazy Taxi. I fucking love Crazy Taxi. Yeah, they showed off footage. The Crazy Taxi just looked like they dumped a bunch of Crazy Taxi assets into Unity, and it looks so slow, and the camera angles are all wrong. And I'm like, that doesn't look like a fun game.
Crazy Taxi doesn't look the best, but I'm pretty hyped about the new Jet Set Radio, because I played the first game. It's fun.
The Jet Set Radio one, I think, looks the best of the ones they showed off. I'm still a bit iffy on it, just because I don't know if you guys noticed, but it wasn't cell shaded, or if it was cell shaded, it was very light, and it kind of looked a little off to me, and it kind of had more muted colors. So they might be going for a grittier thing, but there were a few moments in it I was like, that looks pretty good.
Well, in the trailers they said that they were now in development, so that's probably just alpha footage.
Yeah, and Jet Set Radio, I'm the most confident on, because that's the one that's actually being done in house by Sega, when the other ones are being what's it called, outsourced.
Yeah.
So I have decent confidence that Jet Set Radio is going to be okay. Shinobi looks interesting, because the 2D animation is actually pretty good. It's just I kind of think it looks generic, but it's also it's clearly well done and polished. So Shinobi will probably be fine. Was Golden Axe the...
Golden Axe looked like a beat-em-up akin to God of War, the new one.
Yeah, that one, yeah. Yeah, that one also looked kind of weird graphically to me. That and Streets of Rage, they just kind of look kind of weird to me, and I was like, okay. So, Jet Set Radio gets, I guess, a thumbs up for me. Half a thumbs up for Shinobi. Not sure how I feel about the rest. When are they going to make a new Knights game? Or Panzer Dragoon?
Or Rystar.
I like those. Yeah, Rystar could work. Rystar I'm not too torn up about, because we got Spark the Electric Jester and other stuff.
Here's a question though: if Nintendo is Disney, what is Sega? What studio are they most comparable to?
I don't know. I can't say Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers would be more
alive.
Actually, I don't know. Maybe Warner. Because here's the thing, because when I want to say Warner Brothers, PlayStation isn't Warner Brothers, because PlayStation doesn't really have an identity. When Warner Brothers has a clear Bugs Bunny identity. If anything, Warner Brothers' identity is more well known than Disney's. And also, actually, you did say that alive. Warner Brothers is so clearly dying right now. So who knows? Warner Brothers might be the next.
Well,
Sega,
they're still
actually
more prominent in the industry than Sega is right now, because back then they were a first-party company making their own consoles, and now they're a third-party making games for other consoles on the market.
Maybe they could be DreamWorks, because DreamWorks is now owned by Universal, so they're not their own thing anymore.
Comparison.
So yeah, Sega is DreamWorks.
Anyway, actor Ryan O'Neal, probably best known for being the lead in Barry Lyndon and the driver, Walter Hill's the driver. Unfortunately, passed away. Legendary actor, died at age 82. It's actually kind of unfortunate. Here's like legit, like you know how I recommended Umbrellas at Cherbourg.
Mhm.
My runner-up was Barry Lyndon. I was gonna recommend that last week, and then like I
Wasn't
decided
your
against it
runner?
just because it
Wasn't your
wasn't.
runner-up Eyes Wide Shut?
It was Eyes Wide Shut or Barry Lyndon. It was like it was both Kubrick. I was also thinking about doing Barry Lyndon for the Ravenous episode because that also has kind of a fall by. But I just kept on like Barry Lyndon was like basically my runner-up for like the last few things, and now like the actor Barry Lyndon passed away, and I was like, oh, fortunate. Um, yeah, he also stars as Walter Hill as the driver. He was in Peter Bogdanovich's What's Up, Doc. He was basically a very prominent actor in the 70s. Yeah, so rest in peace, Ryan O'Neal. Here's a weird thing, like it's hard to judge his performances because his performances are so like quiet. Because like Driver and Barry Lyndon are the two that I know him from, and like there's not much like in terms of like dialogue and stuff. Him, it's more just like he has this interesting look. Rest in peace, Ryan O'Neal.
I don't have any news, so I guess getting to the rare Who roast beast, aka the main deal.
All right.
Yes,
So, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now,
and my heart.
I'm sure we're all familiar with either the book or the animated short film by Dr. Seuss,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Of
Chuck
course.
Jones, the Chuck Jones.
Watch that every
films.
year.
This is not quite that, it is, but a little bit more. So this is How the Grinch Stole Christmas, directed by Ron Howard, starring Jim Carrey, and it's live action. This movie had a budget of $123 million, and it made about $345 million, making it the sixth highest grossing film of 2000. Now, I'm sure we're all aware that there are a plethora of Dr. Seuss adaptations. Hell,
Yes,
I think there's
and-
like there's another Grinch movie by Illumination, right? And that was a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
I saw it with my cousin because I was babysitting her. I fell asleep halfway through. I missed like an hour of the film. I have no idea what happened, but it wasn't important because all the moments I was conscious was when it was adapting the whatchamacallit,
Source
the original
material.
short. Yeah, the original short. It was like really funny. I was awake for like the first like few minutes, fell asleep, woke up at the end, and like I basically just saw a CGI remake of like the thing, and I was like, that's pretty cool. What the fuck did they do during the rest of the film though? I have no idea. Because the only thing I saw was the stuff that was in the original short.
They rob a
knows
guy's
what
house.
happened?
They rob a guy's house to get a sleigh.
So it's just like a heist movie, just them like planning the job.
Uh,
It's like Ocean's
Yeah,
11.
it's them planning the job. It's okay.
Okay.
It's an
That's kinda
okay
boring.
I assume it's
adaptation.
more simple than this.
Yeah,
It's
this is a much more interesting take, I imagine.
I'll say this. I don't hate Illumination's Grinch movie, but it is my least favorite of the three adaptations.
I also imagine Benedict Cumberbatch with his weird like house American accent does not quite hit as strongly as Jim Carrey during his peak.
And there's our review of Illumination's Grinch.
We're never gonna
Yes.
dedicate an episode on it.
I don't have plans to.
Anthony Hopkins narrated this movie? Huh, I didn't register that was his voice. Cool.
Lugia, you were saying?
So the reason why I mentioned the fact that there's all these Dr. Seuss book adaptations is because Dr. Seuss himself wanted nothing to do with them. He didn't want to sell the rights to the books at any cost until his unfortunate passing in 1991, where afterwards his wife, Audrey Geisel, agreed to all the merchandising deals and whatnot. So that's why we have all these adaptations. It wasn't in his will, but it is what it is. Now, there's not really too much to note about the film's production, aside from a couple things. One, Tim Burton was originally going to direct the movie, but turned it down due to scheduling conflicts with Sleepy Hollow.
Well, that's a name that's going to show up many, many more times when it comes to Doctor Who's adaptations, then. That is very funny.
And the other thing I want to talk about is Jim Carrey himself as the Grinch. Now,
Our main man.
He had like feds instruct him on how to withstand torture because the makeup process was so frustrating.
Yeah, it took about 2.5 hours to put on the suit. It was covered in yak hair, green dye, and it was sewn onto a spandex suit. And he himself, on many occasions, described wearing the suit as akin to being buried alive. And this agitated him tremendously. He was not easy to work with during this time.
Which kind of fits the film, but yeah. I do think it's kind of funny how many iconic bits from this movie were also like just entirely accident. Like when he pulled the sheet
Cloth
and then
from
he
the
like went
table.
back. Yeah,
And
that
nothing fell
he did not.
down.
That
So
was
he
it.
went
Was
back.
supposed to fall over.
So,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
so he went
supposed to
back
fall
and just
over.
destroyed the table and everything on it.
And honestly, that fits the character like so much more.
It
So like,
does.
it's kind of perfect. Yeah.
Like, guys,
So here's
I
the
don't
thing.
use this. I don't use this term often, if ever. But Jim Carrey's the goat. Jim Carrey is the goat. Let's be real.
It's just a shame that the production with Jim Carrey wasn't so nice. But anyway, the plot of How the Grinch Stole Christmas is about what you would expect and more, because this is also kind of an origin story for the Grinch, and the Who's play a much bigger role in the story itself. So the Grinch was actually raised by the Who's after being sent down as a baby because sex doesn't exist in this universe, and he landed
Not
into a
important.
family of Who's, and he was raised and learned the hollies and jollies of Christmas until his heart was broken, and that's when he hated Christmas, and he's going to ruin it for everybody. That is until he meets a Who called Cindy Lou, who also has her doubts about Christmas, but ultimately they come to an understanding and learn that Christmas isn't about the toys and the noise. It's about friends and family coming together. Yeah, a
La
little.
la 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 la.
So yeah, that's pretty much the general gist when it comes to the Grinch. Red, you said you'd never seen this movie before, right?
Yes.
What did you
And
think?
I never had it. I never had an interest just because like I saw the Cat in the Hat movie, and I never really heard like much good things about this. I heard it was better, but like to me that just meant like okay, so like it's gonna be like less fun than Cat in the Hat because Cat in the Hat is like so bad it's good. I kind of enjoyed this. It's weird, but like I kind of liked it. It had some solid jokes. I liked the sets, the overall visual presentation with like the glow and the wide lenses. Yeah, I think Carrie had a very fun performance. It doesn't capture the spirit of the original at all, but it works at its own thing. But, it works as its own thing.
Yeah, he
So
brings his own spark to the Grinch.
I would agree with you guys. There are certain additions I'm not too keen on, but overall, I'd say this is a pretty decent holiday watch.
Honestly, it was better than I remember, because I think as a kid, I remember just like thinking, yeah, it's kind of whatever. But no, I enjoyed this a lot more.
it was like I don't know. It's just like at least from like a technical level, I feel like people can appreciate this, and it doesn't. And like what I like is like it was inspired by Burton, and what I can feel is like it honestly does kind of like at times kind of remind me of like the kind of haunting vibes that like Burton movies have. Like Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns, like those are the Christmas movies he made before. And like, yeah, I feel like this movie kind of does capture that kind of like little haunted sort of aesthetic that those films got. And like it got pretty good practical effects and stuff. Compared to like Cat in the Hat, which was directed by
Bo Welch.
I believe Bo Welch, who I
Bo
believe
Welch.
worked with
Yeah.
Burton. What did he do with Burton? Was he his like set designer
He
or
was
something?
he was production designer.
And like that one, I feel like it doesn't actually really capture the direction of Burton. It has insane sets. Like I'm not gonna deny that the production design of the Cat in the Hat movie was insane, but like I feel like from a direction standpoint, this is like clearly a cut above because it's got like this like the colors aren't just like overly saturated. It's actually got like some more going on. I think they like rubbed Vaseline on some like on the lens for like some scenes, which gave it like this cool kind of glow. Like I don't know. I liked it. I guess
It's a
like the
pretty
only
dirty movie, which like you could say isn't very Dr. Seuss, but I think it fits with like the overall darker tone this is going for.
Well, the Grinch
And
is
it is
also supposed to
winter,
be a dirty creature. Like, he lives in a
and
mountain,
winter
he goes into trash chutes to transport from the
and
Whoville to
winter
his
isn't
place.
like other than the Christmas lights, Christmas is, like a very pretty gray, bleak time. It's just, the holiday season that makes it seem bright and cheery. So I'd say
yeah.
it works to the film's advantage.
Now,
Like,
what
yeah,
did
I don't know. One thing I always liked about like Christmas movies is that they always had like kind of like a haunting kind of element to them. Because like as like magical as Christmas is like I also feel like with magic there's like also a little bit of like kind of a chill to it. Like even like Peter Pan, like it's so magical, but like the opening is there's a little bit of like a creepiness to it. It's like cold winter night, shadowy, and then like some magical creature shows up, and it's like when I think of like Home Alone, which is like probably my favorite Christmas movie, and that also has like a lot of like horror to it. I remember like the church scene is like kind of like very imposing, and then what's that one Christmas song that's like
Hark how the bells. Carol of the Bells. Carol of the Bells.
yeah. They've made like that's like an action movie theme, man. Like that's the kind of shit you've seen like Harry Potter, like during like some epic like countdown. Or like I don't know. I feel like there's a cool haunting element. I mean, like, Harry Potter's also like a Christmas movie, granted, but like you know what I mean.
Well, Lugia, you were gonna ask us something?
on the topic of like the set design and the overall aesthetic of the movie, what did you think of the costumes?
Like the costumes
What do you mean?
specifically, or like the makeup, or like
Well, both, yeah.
The
both?
the Grinch costume was fucking perfect. Although I think the baby Grinch it looks horrific.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
baby
like the
Grinch
baby
was
Grinch.
awful.
Granted, it was
But
only on screen for like
everything,
2 minutes, so
yeah,
whatever.
but like
It's
everything else with the Grinch was like honestly like stellar, and I think still to this day like some of the best makeup effects like I've seen in flick. Because like
This movie,
again,
this movie
I kind
did
of
win an
like
Oscar for its makeup, so
I kind of like again I kind of like the Cat in the Hat movie, but like the makeup for Mike Myers like it doesn't work nearly as well.
well,
Like I
with
think
Mike
there's too much
Myers, you
white.
can still see like the face outline on the suit.
Yeah, and there's also like too much white. When here, there's like a lot more wrinkles to the Grinch, which I think allows him to like feel more real and expressive. The lack of lips was kind of weird, but like I think it ultimately kind of worked because I got used to it, and also like those people are like not meant to be like particularly like appealing, and like the characters that are meant to be like sympathetic have the lips, so I think that was like much more of a deliberate choice.
I could see how the Who makeup could be perceived as off-putting. I personally was never really bothered by it. I don't know, did it bother you?
As a kid it did, but I got used to it when I rewatched this. Although initially I was like, wait, why does Cindy look normal and everyone else just has these nose with almost no upper lip? And then they actually explain that in the movie.
Acknowledge. She'll grow into her nose. Well, to speak about like the jokes and the comedy, I gotta say, like the physical comedy here is like pretty good. Like I'm a sucker for that like classic cartoon slapstick, and they did some of the gags here translate pretty well to live action. Like I like when the Grinch is actually stealing Christmas, he does the classic, saw a hole in the floor,
Yeah.
shriek falls down. That was great. And when he takes off his socks and like they actually like slither across the ground. And okay, so we watched this movie together, and I told you guys like in the middle of it, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure for each scene they only wrote like 2 lines of dialogue for Jim Carrey, and he just ad-libbed the rest. I would not be surprised if that was the case. Because every scene he's in, he's just like he's Jim Carrey. He always gives like 110%.
You could leave him in a room by himself and he'll still find ways to make it funny.
Oh, absolutely. That's the thing. Like I just like seeing the Grinch like in his cave talking to himself. That's another great scene that always sticks in my head when he's talking to his echo.
You're an
Like
idiot.
it's pointless. It's pointless, but it's just so weird and funny. It's one of the scenes I always think of when I think of this movie. I mean, what about you guys? Did you think this was a funny movie?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I was
it
caught
had
off
actually like
guard
some pretty
when
funny jokes.
I was caught off guard when the Grinch said bitchin'. But other than that, like some of the slapstick was pretty funny. Again, Jim Carrey, to mention this for the umpteenth time, killed it in this role.
But we've been pretty positive so far. What if we just flip that around for a second? What didn't we like?
Thematically, it's not like all that interesting. None of the characters are particularly likable. It's kind of stupid and like disjointed.
It felt
It's
like they
like
tried to add more to the
enter-
Grinch story without
like how do I put it?
realizing what they were adding.
The
I
big
feel like
thing they added
as
here,
a whole,
I
it's
never
a mess. Oh, sorry. I was just saying, like as a whole, it's a mess. But like I'm just entertained moment to moment, so I'm cool with it.
The big thing they added here that I never cared for was the love triangle between the Grinch and what's her name?
Martha.
Betty. Yeah, Betty and Martha. No, the Grinch, Martha, and the mayor. Like I personally never cared for that. Like, I get why it's there, but I feel like they could have conveyed like his hatred for Christmas just fine without it. Like that whole section, which funny enough, that's like the longest stretch without Jim Carrey. That was always my least favorite part of the film. Like, I get why it's there again for backstory purposes, but eh. Again, in the book, it's established nobody actually knows why the Grinch hates Christmas. I think he could have just been like this grump who lives in the garbage. And I think he could have just interpreted that, he gets all the garbage, so I think that's reason enough. There's also that song, Where Are You Christmas, which I never really cared for that either. It's not a bad song, it's put in at a really awkward place, and it was just never my thing. To me, it just kind of screams like, yeah, here's our best original song Oscar attempt.
That was during what scene again?
That was like when the Grinch, I think it's like right when the Grinch gets back to his cave. He gets to his cave, then it just cuts to Cindy Lou Who at home singing, and then it cuts back to the Grinch in the cave. I don't know, it was like an awkward cut that like doesn't do anything. Anything else we have gripes with? Or nitpicks, what have you?
We mentioned the pacing.
Yeah, this movie feels like 20 minutes too long.
Like, I was surprised when we got to like the main part where the Grinch is stealing Christmas.
If you
and we
cut
had,
the origin
like,
story, it probably would be fun pace.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Like
we
after
had like
he
half
actually
an
does
hour
his...
left, like once we got to the main part.
No, really, after he does his stealing of Christmas, that's kind of when I clock out. Like, I never remember anything past that. But again, putting all of that aside, I still think this is a pretty decent movie in itself. Again, I do definitely prefer the Chuck Jones special, but like I said, I do like this more than the Illumination one. It does have its own identity to it.
So I assume the Illumination one is just hollow.
It's kind of basic, I guess. Like, they do try something with the Grinch where his hatred for Christmas comes more from his loneliness, but it's very vague. Like, it's an okay adaptation. It feels like the Grinch with all like the edges sawed off. I don't know. What do you think, Red?
What do you mean? Like,
Well, he
I don't
slept
think
through half
Illumination-
of it.
The Illumination Grinch. From what you remember, did you like what you remember of the Illumination Grinch?
no, it was the most neutered shit. Like, it was basically just
Yeah,
like what I
that's-
saw
that's-
was just this short, but without any of the punch.
That's what I was saying. It just feels like a very watered down Grinch. It's a very pretty movie. I think it looks gorgeous, but like plot wise and like Grinch wise, it's really nothing remarkable.
All I can say is, this has mentally prepared me for the Cat in the Hat, only slightly.
I'm very excited about that.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. That movie traumatized me.
That is my ultimate guilty pleasure movie, but we're not getting to that just yet. Anything left to add, Red?
Nope.
All right. So I do believe we agreed we have enough left in us for one more episode this year.
I think so, yeah.
All right. So Gremlins was my holiday recommendation, but seeing as, Christmas is closer than it's ever been, do we want to cram in one more Christmas movie, or at the very least, a movie with Christmas vibes?
I'll go with the Christmas Vibes movie.
Yeah, Christmas vibes.
Okay, Christmas vibes.
No
So
vibes, no
this
Bevis,
is
no Bevis, no vibes.
So this is one I've thought about for quite some time, and I'm not sure if you guys have seen this one before. Like, I doubt Lugia has. Red, you might have. And this is another one of those movies in the same vein as Gremlins, where some people are like, is it a Christmas movie? Is it not? I could flip a coin. This movie is set over winter break, though, so there is that. But I guess to round out the year, we're going to be looking at the cult classic dark comedy, Better Off Dead.
Okay, I definitely haven't seen this before. You're right about that. I feel like I've heard this, though.
Red, do you know this one?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. This is the one with John Cusack, right?
Yes, it is. Guys, all right, perfect. Do me a favor, go in blind. Because I
Okay.
went into this movie blind. and it's something.
What a
Here's
way
another-
to end off the year. That you're better off
Yeah.
dead.
I don't know. This all
Also
right.
better
I'll
off
just
dead.
say
It's like,
this.
oh my god, pervert alert every time Dan Schneider shows up.
I'll just say this. This is not a movie to be taken seriously at all. It's a very goofy, dark comedy with very odd characters and very surreal jokes. But it's a personal favorite of my family's, so
You make it sound like a red pick.
Yeah, this probably would be if I saw it.
but you haven't yet.
Yep. So we'll see how it is.
Now that all that racket noise is done, it's time for me to ruin Christmas.
You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel.
Just face the music, you're a monster.